Dando início ao painel 2, que abordará o tema Excesso de capacidade de produção de aço no mundo, como solucionar. Convidamos para integrar a mesa os senhores André, Gerdau e Johannpeter, Conselheiro do Aço Brasil e Vice-Presidente Executivo do Conselho de Administração da Gerdau, que será o moderador do painel. Senhores Palestrantes, Embaixador Ronaldo Costa, Filho, Subsecretário-geral de Assuntos Econômicos e Financeiros do Itamaraty. Nae Han, Diretora de Estudos Econômicos e Estatística da World Steel. E Lexia, economista-chefe para a Ásia, BBVA Research. Informamos a seguir as regras de funcionamento do painel. O moderador do painel terá 5 minutos para as suas considerações iniciais e cada um dos palestrantes terá um tempo de exposição de 20 minutos. Ao final das apresentações, haverá sessão de debates, devendo as perguntas serem formuladas somente por escrito e entregues às recepcionistas. Com a palavra, o senhor André, Gerdau e Johannpeter.
Obrigado, bom dia a todos novamente. Vamos dar início a esse painel, importante painel para discutir o assunto do excesso de capacidade no mundo, que já foram apresentados os panelistas. Eu queria fazer uma rápida introdução, falando um pouco sobre a importância de discutir esse tema. Sem dúvida, o momento do aço, da indústria do aço no mundo, é bem melhor do que os últimos anos, provavelmente o melhor momento dos últimos 2 ou 3 anos, por vários fatores, seja crescimento da economia, um mini boom dos commodities, a redução da produção de aço na China, a 232 e seus efeitos, mas a verdade é que o setor, em diferente proporção, vive um bom momento em diferentes regiões. Mas o que está projetado aí ainda é o nosso grande problema no setor. E nesses momentos que melhoram os resultados, a gente tende a não debater ou avaliar, que é o excesso de capacidade. Então, nesse quadro que está projetado, a gente vê esse excesso de 545 milhões de toneladas, sob uma capacidade instalada de 2,2, basicamente 25% da capacidade instalada não é utilizada, ou diferentes regiões, sendo que a China é a maior delas, que tem 280 milhões. Praticamente metade da sobrecapacidade está na China. Por isso a importância da China, todo o Congresso a gente discute muito, e nesse momento a China, com a sua redução de produção por questões de poluição e obsolescência, tem contribuído para a redução de produção. Na Ásia, excluindo a China, 85 milhões, a Europa também é grande, com 52, CIS com 92, e NAFTA e América do Sul com bem menos sobrecapacidade, Oceania e MENA. Então, isso é para dar um panorama do que acontece no mundo, onde está a sobrecapacidade. E, de novo, lembrando, apesar da melhora do momento, esse problema é estrutural e é um problema que tem que ser enfrentado. Acabamos de ver a palestra do Xongu Rojas, que está liderando o grupo de excesso de capacidade, está se tentando como enfrentar esse grande problema da sobrecapacidade. Bom, feita essa introdução, eu vou pedir para o embaixador Ronaldo Costa fazer a sua apresentação.
Bom dia a todos. Queria, antes de mais nada, na pessoa do Dr. Johannpeter, agradecer o convite do Instituto Aço Brasil para estar com vocês hoje e compartilhar algumas ideias. Eu queria dizer, primeiramente, que é muito difícil seguir uma palestra da profundidade como foi apresentada pelo Jun Kaká. Eu acho que a análise que ele apresenta é impecável no que diz respeito à situação do aço e o que está se fazendo. Eu não resisto, antes de começar na minha apresentação, de fazer 2 pequenos comentários à apresentação. A primeira, a questão da percepção da posição da China no mundo e do impacto que isso estava tendo na economia e no comércio internacional. Eu acho que é muito mais longe no tempo do que final do governo Obama e começo do governo Trump. A rigor, a própria admissão da China à OMC em 2001 já foi um reconhecimento de que a China se tornava um player incontornável na economia e no comércio internacional. E talvez fosse ilusório a percepção naquele momento de que a inserção da China no sistema multilateral de comércio seria uma maneira de fazer a China migrar para um modelo de crescimento, de desenvolvimento econômico ocidental, liberal ocidental. E a realidade, eu acho que esse problema final de governo Obama com TPP e TTIP como estratégia de contenção e uma atitude talvez mais confrontacionista hoje do governo Trump revelam que essa estratégia não foi plenamente eficaz. Tanto é que hoje o grande chamamento é por uma reforma da OMC, por novas disciplinas que consigam dar conta do modo de produção chinês. O segundo comentário, e aí eu falo como diplomata, eu tenho menos apego ao unilateralismo como uma solução aceitável. Eu não vejo em nenhum momento que o unilateralismo tenha um papel na solução do problema. E isso aqui vai desembocar, e eu vou abordar isso um pouco mais adiante, na própria questão do G20. Quer dizer, o G20, como o Junco muito bem assinalou, não tem dente, não tem mecanismo de sanção, e é, por excelência, um mecanismo de construção de consensos. Consensos entre as 20 maiores economias, com as quais se pode tentar, depois, organizar o sistema multilateral. E o unilateralismo, eu acho que é uma pedra no caminho desse esforço de construção de consensos. Feitos esses dois pequenos comentários, quer dizer que o momento é particularmente relevante para falar sobre aço. O setor siderúrgico está no centro das atenções e, de certa forma, na origem do panorama internacional, especialmente desafiador para o Brasil. O aço foi e continua sendo um componente central do processo de industrialização, ao crescimento econômico e ao desenvolvimento. Mais de 1,6 bilhões de toneladas de aço são produzidos anualmente por mais de 90 países. A siderurgia ocupa, portanto, lugar central nas cadeias globais de valor e no intercâmbio comercial global. Como resultado, o aço ocupa sempre papel de destaque nas discussões sobre comércio, acordos, regras e medidas de proteção. Os senhores certamente sabem os dados muito melhor do que eu sobre o setor de aço, mas, como o Junco salientou, o grande problema é, hoje, o excesso de capacidade, ou seja, o excesso de produção com relação à demanda. Segundo o World Steel Association, o gap entre o consumo, entre capacidade de consumo mundial, foi de 201 milhões de toneladas métricas no ano 2000. Alcançou 482 milhões em 2010 e superou 700 milhões em 2015. Houve ligeira diminuição em 2016 e em 2017 o gap ainda estava em torno de 595 milhões. No período 2017 a 2035, a demanda deve crescer apenas 1,1% anualmente. A China é hoje o maior produtor mundial de aço, possuindo uma capacidade instalada de mais de 1 bilhão de toneladas. Somente entre os anos de 2000 e 2017, a capacidade chinesa de produção aumentou em quase 900 milhões de toneladas. Por conseguinte, o comportamento do setor siderúrgico chinês influencia diretamente o equilíbrio internacional de oferta e demanda de aço. Na situação atual, com níveis de capacidade de produção mundial em torno de 2,3 bilhões e com demanda em torno de 1,6 bilhões de toneladas, mesmo sem aumento algum de capacidade produtiva, seriam necessários mais de 30 anos para que o mercado voltasse ao equilíbrio, caso mantido o ritmo atual de aumento da demanda. Por trás da desaceleração, nesse ritmo de crescimento da demanda, está o afrouxamento entre o elo, entre o crescimento econômico dos países e a demanda por ferro. Isso decorre, sobretudo, de desenvolvimentos recentes, como novos materiais, tecnologias que permitem que a durabilidade do aço seja mais longa, o uso mais frequente e intenso de processos de reciclagem. Além disso, fatores como o envelhecimento populacional e a crescente digitalização contribuem para reduzir a demanda internacional por aço. A experiência demonstra que o excesso de capacidade siderúrgica é muito grave, pois reduz os lucros, gera distorções comerciais, ameaça a existência de companhias, cria desequilíbrios regionais, prejudica a luta contra desafios ambientais e compromete as relações comerciais internacionais. Falo agora um pouquinho sobre o foro do G20, presidido este ano pela Argentina. Como o Junco salientou, quer dizer, houve uma percepção no G20 da gravidade da situação. Tanto é que, como ele bem salientou na própria presidência chinesa, na cúpula de Hangzhou, em 2016, o G20 decidiu estabelecer um foro para aumentar a cooperação e o compartilhamento de informações sobre a siderurgia. Trata-se do Foro Global sobre Excesso de Capacidade de Aço, integrado por 33 países, os 20 do G20 e membros interessados da OCDE, que juntos representam 90% da produção e da capacidade mundial no setor de aço. Um dos principais focos de trabalho do foro, e que consta do mandato conferido em Hangzhou, diz respeito aos subsídios ao setor siderúrgico. A existência de subsídios que distorcem o mercado e as condições de competição é reconhecida como uma das causas da situação de sobrecapacidade atual. Tais subsídios mantêm em funcionamento siderúrgicas economicamente inviáveis e levam a decisões equivocadas de investimentos, prejudicando o equilíbrio de oferta e demanda. O foro avançou no compartilhamento de informações e na formulação de recomendações com firme engajamento do Brasil. No início de 2017, foi criado um mecanismo de intercâmbio de dados sobre desenvolvimentos na capacidade de produção de aço e sobre políticas governamentais, inclusive subsídios que distorcem o mercado. Após a cúpula de Hamburgo do G20 em julho de 2017, o foro começou a formular recomendações de políticas para reduzir a sobrecapacidade de produção de aço. No encontro ministerial, em dezembro de 2017, os membros do foro aprovaram um relatório contendo princípios e recomendações de políticas para governos, com o objetivo de não apenas mitigar a sobrecapacidade no curto prazo, mas eliminá-la estruturalmente. Ao longo de 2008, Ao longo de 2018, o foro vem buscando alcançar um acordo em torno de compromissos voluntários por parte de cada membro, no sentido da eliminação de subsídios distorsivos e da redução de sobrecapacidade. Obviamente, há uma cobrança muito maior sobre aqueles membros que detêm a maior responsabilidade pela situação de excesso de capacidade. E o foco central passou a ser, evidentemente, a China. A China, maior produtor de aço, que responde por 49,4% da produção mundial, passou a ser cobrada a assumir compromissos concretos de eliminação de subsídios considerados distorsivos. A China, como era de se esperar, começou a manifestar algum desconforto com o papel de principal responsável e a atrasar a adoção de compromissos voluntários de eliminação de subsídios. Indicou, nesse sentido, que todos os demais membros do foro deveriam fazer o mesmo. Após a adoção das sobretaxas americanas ao aço e ao alumínio sob a seção 232, tudo ficou mais complicado. A China passou a exigir que os demais membros do foro também assumissem compromissos de não imposição de medidas unilaterais. A situação, evidentemente, praticamente paralisou os trabalhos do foro. A escalada do conflito comercial entre Estados Unidos e China, com todas as medidas e contramedidas que vêm sendo anunciadas pelos dois países, agrava o impasse. O foro deverá reunir-se agora em 19 e 20 de setembro, em Paris. Na ocasião, a expectativa era de que se adotasse um relatório contendo atualizações sobre a situação de produção siderúrgica nos países integrantes e sobre as medidas de apoio governamental. e, se possível, compromissos concretos tendentes à redução da sobrecapacidade. Acontecimentos recentes, entretanto, não nos levam a ter grandes esperanças de que a reunião acabe com um relatório de consenso, e é possível que tenhamos apenas um relatório da presidência argentina. Como digo, não um relatório consensual. O excesso de capacidade gera insatisfações e pressões internas em vários países. Uma solução definitiva para a produção excessiva do aço requer engajamento multilateral. Ações isoladas podem criar alívio momentâneo para os países que as adotam, mas têm o potencial de gerar espiral de medidas e contramedidas unilaterais que, ao final, trarão prejuízos a todos. Isso é exatamente o que parece estar acontecendo, como consequência das medidas norte-americanas. Já temos salvaguardas da União Europeia. A Turquia iniciou a investigação. A União Euroasiática também. Ninguém vai ganhar nesse jogo. Ao Brasil, a meu ver, cabe acompanhar com atenção os fluxos comerciais nos produtos sob restrição para avaliar se está havendo algum tipo de desvio de comércio. O Brasil apoiou, desde o início, os trabalhos do foro e vem defendendo a necessidade de ações a fim de eliminar os subsídios que têm sido identificados como distorsivos e geradores de sobrecapacidade. O Brasil entende que, uma vez estabelecidas as condições normais de atuação das forças de mercado, os ajustes na situação de sobrecapacidade mundial ocorrerão de forma natural. Obviamente, nos países em que o processo de ajuste pode se dar de forma mais rigorosa, é necessária a atuação do governo para minimizar os custos sociais desse ajuste. O Brasil está bem posicionado para contribuir com credibilidade para o debate internacional sobre produção siderúrgica, pelos seguintes motivos. Primeiro, o setor siderúrgico nacional atua em condições de mercado. Os ajustes de produção siderúrgica não são feitos pelo governo, mas pelas próprias empresas. Segundo, não concedemos subsídios distorsivos ao setor siderúrgico. Terceiro, não temos barreiras contra investimentos estrangeiros em aço. Quarto, a conduta de cada empresa é monitorada por autoridades competentes, como o CAD. Todas as empresas precisam seguir regras estabelecidas pela legislação brasileira sobre transparência. Quinto, o governo não estabelece metas para o setor siderúrgico. E, finalmente, sexto, não são impostas barreiras para a importação de insumos para a produção de aço, como carvão e minérios. Apesar do cenário adverso, a melhor forma de combater a sobrecapacidade mundial continua sendo por intermédio da concertação, compartilhamento de informações e construção de confiança no nível multilateral. Nesse sentido, o governo brasileiro vai continuar apoiando os esforços do foro e considera que a conclusão bem-sucedida dos seus trabalhos é também a melhor maneira de arrefecer o ímpeto do unilateralismo observado atualmente. Paralelamente, em termos de atuação diplomática bilateral, não nos interessa escolher lados, nem apoiar ninguém de forma automática ou incondicional. Nenhum dos principais atores, em termos de produção e mercado, é totalmente inocente, nem vai necessariamente atuar em função dos interesses brasileiros. No Foro Global, na OMC e nas discussões bilaterais e plurilaterais, vamos ter que ser muito cuidadosos na defesa de nossos interesses e ter uma visão que não se limita unicamente ao curto prazo. No Itamaraty, vamos ter sempre presente os interesses do setor, ao lado de ter em conta o quadro mais amplo e as posições do Brasil nas diversas instâncias negociadoras. Muito obrigado.
Obrigado, embaixador Ronaldo Costa, pelas suas colocações. E, dando sequência, Nahi, por favor.
Thank you, first of all, Brazil's Institute for inviting me to speak in this prestigious conference. I have enjoyed this morning very much with all these prestigious speakers and also very thought-provoking ideas. So now it's my turn to talk about the view of World Steel in terms of how to deal with the current issues. So, first, I would like to spend a couple of minutes talking about the current situation of the steel industry, which we all actually know by heart. And then I would like to assess how things will evolve from both demand and supply side situation. So all this morning we have heard about the overcapacity problems and the rising trade tensions. So this is actually the current situation of steel industry. And further to that, I would like to add that emerging megatrends are pointing to the fact that steel demand will not grow very fast in the future for the long term. Actually, Ambassador Filho has already laid a background to most of what I will speak today, but I will try to be a bit more elaborate. So, in one word, we are living a different world where our sustainability in the long term is under stress. Just to elaborate, let me talk about current situation in terms of longer term historical perspective. We all know that in the till mid-70s, the global steel industry enjoyed a kind of a golden era. Things were growing very fast on the back of a post-war reconstruction and also rapid industrialization. But after the oil crisis, everything came to a halt, and then for 2.5 decades, the steel industry had to undergo a sustained downturn. This downturn came to the end only in early 2000s when China started to grow very strongly to pull the whole industry demand again. But this sort of abruptly ended, boom, again with the financial crisis. And then since then, it seems the industry has passed another inflection point in terms of steel demand. Since 2015, we see only 1% growth. So this is, of course, first of all, attributable to China, which has stopped growing, but also, in our view, another important megatrend forces are in play. So turning to demand side story, let's first briefly look at our short-term demand forecast for current and next year, which was produced in April of this year. Here we project only 1.8% growth this year, and this will even further decelerate next year. But what is the global economic background here? The global economy was actually starting expansion since 2016, and IMF and other organizations forecast still global GDP will grow 3.3%, but still demand is growing around 1-2 or less. So the difference, the divergence between the performance of the overall economy versus the steel industry is rather unusual, and it's quite disturbing. So let's elaborate on this point a little bit. Historically, steel is since a commodity which is driven by investment. It is very sensitive to business cycles. In particular, when the economy is in an expansion mood, steel demand grows much faster than GDP. And to the contrary, when the economy is in the downturn, steel demand decelerates much faster than GDP. So this has been the relationship we have observed in the past, and it is actually shown in this graph. But if we look at very recent years of 2016, well, the global economy is growing relatively robustly and also expanding. Still demand is not exceeding GDP growth. So what is happening? And this is, in our belief, manifestation of a kind of long-term trend which we will face, and which I will explain a bit more later. So the first structural change we are facing is missing growth engine. I will elaborate on this because we have already witnessed many saying that China stopped growing, and a lot of emerging economies have been in trouble. Since 2014 especially, the problem has exacerbated. In recent years, we see some positive momentum both in the developed economies and also in the emerging economies, but both of them are not good enough to replace the missing growth engine lost by China's deceleration. As you can see in this table, in 2014 to 18 period, the whole gross contribution came from other emerging part. And then there is megatrend factors, which I mentioned earlier, that are affecting steel demand. This is probably less recognizable or visible, but it is much more important in the sense that it will be a long-term phenomenon. There are many factors that I have listed here. First of all, the aging population. So the world population is growing more slowly and also aging. And aging population normally has a negative impact on steel demand. Secondly, we also observe growing income inequalities all around the world, both in developed and developing economies. And income inequality, as we know, hurts social cohesion and also hurts long-term economic potential, as it hurts the quality of education. Not accidentally, in those countries where populism is popular, taking example of US or UK, this is the country where we have seen the most increase in income inequality. Lastly, we see digitalization influencing the industry value chain, production mode, and everything. So this will lead to more efficient use of steel and less use of labor, will have a very profound impact on the steel industry. And then the next idea is a so-called premature deindustrialization, which is probably less familiar. So I will spend a bit of time explaining this. And based on this idea, we will see newly emerging economies will have less chance for industrialization, therefore less chance for developing steel demand. And then there is some familiar concept of a circular economy, which is going to be more prevalent, more dominant force in the global economy. And this will have the effect of breaking the link between economic growth and the resource uses. Again, implying some negative potential for steel demand growth. And then as we have again repeatedly said, the world economic paradigm or political paradigm is in a fundamental shift away from globalism. And then we know that free trade and globalism has been the backbone of economic prosperity we have experienced. Therefore, with the weakening of these, maybe global economic movement might be also in a kind of a danger, again, a negative pressure. So I will skip a couple of slides in order to be in time, and then talk about the premature deindustrialization. So let's start from the story of industrialization. This morning we also heard a lot about the need for industrialization as a very important part of the economy. And actually I can even say industrialization have been at the core of economic development. It does not just mean developing manufacturing sector, but actually in this process it will have a fundamental change in the economics and society structure, including urbanization. But we also have noticed that after some point, countries will start to lose their competitiveness in the manufacturing sector, mostly driven by wage increases. So this stage is called deindustrialization. So on the graph, left side, we have plotted the manufacturing share in GDP for the developed economies, and we see universally all the countries after rapid industrialization go through deindustrialization. But actually, this deindustrialization of developed countries have been an opportunity for the late-coming countries to catch up and take over industrialization. So we see kind of a cascading of industrialization from developed economies to developing economies. We see manufacturing center has moved from UK to US to Japan to Asian tigers, and then finally China. But in recent years, as we can see from the right side graph, a lot of emerging economies experience a decrease in their manufacturing share, even if they have not reached the mature stage of industrialization. So we can call this as premature deindustrialization. So why is this happening? Maybe because of the effect of globalization and building up of complete manufacturing supply chain centered around a few strong manufacturing countries like China, Germany, Japan, Korea. So on the current situation, the newly emerging economies will have difficulty finding the scope for developing fully industrialized scope, fully developing their own supply chain or global supply chain. So their scope for industrialization may be belonging to part of that global supply chain rather than developing own full supply chain. Also, development of technology and IT enables countries to have economic development without relying on industrialization, manufacturing. A good example would be India. So India was able to pursue economic development based on service industries. But even in India, actually, at the moment, they have this pressure to develop their own manufacturing. So it seems like industrialization is at the thrust of all the countries who wanted to develop. But maybe in the future, the scope might be limited to partial industrialization, so-called, without developing full-scale industrialization. So this, again, is a negative news for the potential for steel demand in newly emerging economies. Next is the principle of circular economy. We have heard about circular economy, but in the sense mostly in terms of waste management, recycling in the past. But the newly emerging circular economy ideas are very fundamental. It is not just about recycling, but it is about whole stages of our life, from production to consumption to disposal. And this circular economy principle has 4 cores. One is reduce, reuse, and remanufacture and recycle. And among those, this reuse and remanufacture will have a very deep implication for steel demand, because, for example, in the construction sector, instead of buying a new beams, construction company can take beams from old buildings and build a new building. And this is a new trend, which is already happening in the construction sector, and a lot of avant-garde construction companies are trying to move into circular design in order to be able to reuse construction materials. Remanufacturing, which is only at 2% of manufacturing output at the moment, means instead of throwing away old, used parts, they will repurpose it to a new condition. Again, this will have negative impact on steel demand. Recycle is already very known to us, so I don't have to explain. And reduce means in one way production efficiency, but for the consumer, that means using less resources in order to save resources. So we see a lot of sharing cars, sharing houses, and so on. So this sharing economy will also reduce the demand for still using goods in a considerable way. In this sense, if circular economy is fully implemented, that means the relationship between economic growth and resource inputs will diverge. We can see economic growth, but maybe not increase in inputs. So this diagram shows the kind of channels where these circular economy principles could lead to lower steel demand, either through less use of steel in production or less demand for steel containing goods, or by reusing. But also we see that there might be some new opportunities along this transition to circular economy, because building circular economy infrastructure will need investment in certain logistics and so on. So we see that, as I said, it is only at the very beginning stage of implementation. Therefore, a lot of people don't even notice it. But we are sure sooner or later there will be an inflection point where reuse and remanufacturing becomes a much more facilitate, thanks to technology development, business models, and also supporting regulations. Then the steel industry will have to get far-reaching impacts. So given mega trends, we would see we have already seen since 2014 that steel intensity of GDP, which is the unit of steel used to produce 1 unit of GDP, has been declining. And this is not just a short-term phenomena, but because of all the mega-trend forces I mentioned, it's something happening for a longer-term period. And this is not new. Actually, if we go back to the mid-70s, after the oil shock, there was a structural shift in the economy toward the energy conservation, and also, as I say, mature industrialization of developed economies. And this led to about 2.5 years of decline in steel intensity. So we might see the same pronounced decline in steel intensity in the future. So based on this idea, as we can see from the lower table, we have about 2.01 billion tons of steel demand projected, which means steel demand growing only by additional 300 million tons in the next 2 decades. And this, as we will see from the supply side story, will be enough to satisfy our steel demand for at least till 2035. And we have already, Ambassador has already mentioned the degree of overcapacity. And what we see here is that capacity tends to have lagged development in terms of its relationship with the demand. So let me look at the next slide in order to highlight this. Here we have a plotted steel demand from 2000 versus capacity in 100 scale. And this shows which grew relatively fast. And until 2007, steel demand grew much faster. And then afterwards, demand collapsed, but capacity continued to increase, and then the gap between the two has become enormous by now. So why is the steel industry so easy to build capacity? We can think of a couple of reasons. And first, I think, is misinformed information about the future demand. Once the market is good, demand increases, people will think this will last forever. 2, there is competition for economies of scale. Therefore, everybody wanted to build when the market is good. 3rd, there is something called national self-sufficiency in steel industry. Everybody wanted to have their own steel industry rather than importing. So those tended to lead to overcapacity in steel industry whenever the market is good. This was exactly what also has happened in the 70s. Since my time is out, I will just spare a couple more minutes. Yeah. So, what could we learn from the past restructuring histories? In terms of reducing capacity, we have already known that it's not an easy process. So we have done study for what happened in the 70s. And then the first is, it was a very long and costly process. In the case of EU, where the government took a strong initiative to prompt the restructuring, capacity started to fall only from 1980. And then it took 8 years to reduce 40 million tons. And they had to spend 38 billion euros in social costs and closures. In this process, labor had gotten much more severe impact. So reduction in labor had been more than double of reduction in capacity. This was because of increased labor efficiency due to new technologies. And similarly, we are seeing digitalization, which will also reduce the demand for labor. And because of very high exit barrier in the steel industry, government role intervention was actually necessary at 3 levels. One is to provide a policy framework within which restriction can take place, and also to ensure level playing field by ensuring market force and also free trade. And then try to help reduce exit barriers by mitigating social impact of the closures. Trade measures have been often used, but the conclusion is they were not fundamental solution and they often delayed the restructuring process. And toward the end, the market forces through consolidation actually finalized the restructuring process. Before finishing, let me just talk about the importance of open trade. About 1/3 of steel produced is globally traded, and on top, about 300 million tons of steel is traded indirectly in the form of steel-containing goods like cars or fridges. So for the steel industry, open trade is very important, and also for the steel-using sectors, which build a global supply chain, free flow of their input is very important. Therefore, the world economy depends on free trade of steel. And also, if you put barriers to steel trade, what happens is the trade will move to steel-containing trade, indirect trade through steel-containing goods. I mean, higher steel price in trade barrier country will make steel-using sectors in that country less competitive. Therefore, they will be importing through indirect trade. Okay. So my conclusion is, given that we will not have very strong steel demand, given that industry capacity adjustment is very difficult, and given that we are facing a very severe fundamental change in our industry, we will have to try to capture opportunities along this mega transformation of the global economy. And then in order to do this, what is important is that we change our mind from volume to value, and also we focus on innovation in order to be ready to capture any opportunity that may arise, to be able to make the product that the society needs, and also we needed to be able to find our new position in the value chain, because this circular economy and digitalization is likely to bring fundamental reshuffling of steel industry's value chain. Thank you.
Thank you, Nahi. Antes de ir adiante, só lembrando, quem quiser fazer perguntas, por favor, mande elas por escrito, para a gente poder passar para os debatedores aqui. Europe.
I think I need to use the remote. Thank you very much. It's my great pleasure to have a chance to talk about the Chinese overcapacity things. In fact, last year in Cancun, at a similar event of Latin American Steelmaker Association, I talk about much more pleasant topic about the Chinese activities in Latin America. In that topic, I talk about how China is going to increase the investment, so that to some degree bring a brighter outlook to the local steelmaker production. But unfortunately, this time I have to bring this not that pleasant topic to us, to how to solve this overcapacity problem. But the problem is, seems this solution is not that easy, okay? Now let's start with this one. 1 minute, yep. Okay, the good thing is my colleagues, they have already talked about this one, talk about the facts about the Chinese steelmaking industry, so it saved me a lot of energy. But still, I like to go through some of the facts about the Chinese one. And here, I like to draw your attention to the chart on the right side, because on the left side, we already know that the Chinese production has increased tremendously. But the thing is, this trend has finished in the last 20 years. And if you check the chart on the right side, you can see this trend is very significant. The Chinese share of the total market, they increase from around 5% of the total production to now almost half of the total production. But it's happened just in last 20 years. It's amazing. And although now China is not a top 10 exporter of this steel, but still, if a country they have experienced such increase of the production, definitely they will have very strong shocks to other countries of these similar industries. And here we show that the price and the profit, that's what is the steelmakers concern. And this is the Chinese figures. But the problem is, as we can see that in some years recently, if you look at the chart on the right side still, the steel industry in China, they are making a loss, okay? But I think that this topic we already mentioned in the previous panels. Why? Because China steel makers, they receive all kinds of subsidies, other forms of financial report from the government, tax rebate, all these things. I'm not going to go to the detail of this one, but definitely if you check these figures, you can you are clear that now the Chinese steel making industry, they are living to quite large extent, living on financial support from the government. Here, I think Professor Jimeno, he already mentioned this one. So on the flip side of this declining profitability, the Chinese steel makers leverage, here we define leverage as total debt to total asset has been increased. Of course, this increased leverage is very common in China, not only for steel making industries, but also common in other industries. That's one of the economic challenge is facing by Chinese government. And here we go to a little bit detail but among the industry. So on the right side, as you can see, the concentration of these steel makers in China is very low. So top 10 steel makers, they only account around less than 40% of the total production. I will go to the detail of this part in later part. But still, I think it's obviously China, they have too many steel makers. That's a very easy conclusion. I will explain why. in a minute. So now let's concentrate on these factor things. Here, I think it's common. I think that on the right side, of course, most of the important chart put on the right side. On the right side, we have seen some positive change because in terms of the investment in this industry, we have seen declining in China. So I think that this one is quite consistent with Ms. Han's presentation. She talked about this on demand side, this Chinese demand almost peaked. But on the supply side, of course, now China still have overcapacities. But the good news is maybe these new capacities in Chinese steel industry will peak again. But still, even they peaked, they still have a large overcapacities in these industries. Okay, so I'm going to skip these two parts. Now let's go to talk about why they have this overcapacity. So you want to solve this problem, you need to know the reason. And here I list 4 reasons. The first one is external shocks. I think that many of these new capacities in China is related to this, we usually call the 4 trillion steel stimulus package after the financial crisis. At that time, one US and Europe, they were in trouble, and China, they have launched this stimulus package. And this one is quite related to the current situation of Chinese steel industry. Why? From 2 sides. From the demand side, because of this stimulus package, they include a lot of the investment in property market. They also include a lot of the measures to boost this infrastructure investment. Both of them boost the demand for this steel. But also on the supply side, because China, they look around, they see in which industry we can boost the investment. And then they decide to list steel industry as one of the industry to receive more investment. So that's on both demand side and supply side, this stimulus package has boosted the Chinese steel industries. And the second, but I think that this one is quite superficial, I like to say, because we always know that when we have something bad, the government, sometimes they blame the external shocks. I don't know whether here is the same, but in Asia, people always blame, okay, it is all US problem. Okay, they have a financial crisis, that's why we have a problem here in Asia. But I think that this one is superficial. We have a more, I like to say, the root cause for this problem. And the second one is about this low technical barrier. So no offense, I know our steel makers, colleagues, they have been doing a lot of R&D things to improve our technology. But the thing is, the barrier to this industry is not that high, especially in China. You just buy some equipment and then you can build a very small ones. If you have very good demand, and you can start run your steelmaker business. So, and also in China, they don't have a very good IP productions, the intellectual property laws. So that's one of the primary complaint from the US, from the President Trump. He complained China, they don't have a good IP protections. To some degree, it's true. So that's why the China is easier for them to do this business. That's why we have so many steel makers in China, as I showed in the previous charts. And the third one, I think is third and fourth one, I think they are much more important. So I devote a separate page to explain. The first one is, I think this why in this industry they have this overinvestment. We all know this overinvestment lead to overcapacities. I think that this one is related to Chinese development models. Of course, over the past 20 or 30 years, we have seen very impressive growth in China. Okay, everyone admit that one. But how China achieved that one? The thing is, China, they try to imitate this kind of we call Singapore model. Because Singapore, we know that they run a country just like run a company. But of course, China is too big. It's impossible to run an entire country as one company. So they have the solution to run the country as 30 separate companies. because China have around 30 provinces. So every provincial government, they run their province as a very big company. They want to know in which industry, when I make an investment, I can get a very quick fruits. I can get very quick return from this investment. So, as I said, this steel-making industry, they have a relatively lower barrier, and they can solve a lot of problem of this unemployment rate. So that's why many Chinese provincial government, they favor this industry. They make a lot of investment in this industry. And also, as you can see that SOE, the state-owned enterprises, they make a lot of investment because it's easier to run this one, and they can boost the local economy very quickly. They can easily find this, we can call it early fruits. So that's why they like this, this mode. And also, as I showed in the previous slides, that's why we have seen so many steel makers in China, because every, at provincial levels, everyone, they have their favorite ones. They support 1 or 2 steel makers in their province. And even under the municipal level, some big municipals, they try to support their own steel makers. That's why we see this concentration in this industry is so low in China. I think that's the root reason why China have this overcapacity. That means if you want to change this overcapacity, you need to change the growth model, especially at the local government. But we shouldn't, I mean, as economists, I shouldn't blame this model. Before it worked, right? It have helped China to increase so fast. So this competition between different local governments, they can provide a kind of a positive one. But increasingly, as we can see that they create a negative effect, just like this growth model, just like this overcapacity. It's not only just in steel making industry, it also in these automakers. You know, in US, they have 3 big automakers, but in China, every province, they have their own automakers. So, sorry, I skipped the last one. Last one is demand side. I think Ms. Han, she already talked about this one, but the things in China is before China have experienced a very fast urbanization process. So people, they come to the rural people, they come to the cities, they find a job, and they have a very strong demand for this accommodation, they have a demand for infrastructures, and China, they have taken advantage of this one to make a lot of investment. But increasingly, as you can see that this kind of urbanization process not stop there, but at least will significantly slowed. Because now Chinese cities, they hold around 60% of the population. So in future, even they increase this urbanization rate to 70%. I think this is a very high level in terms of the developing country like China. But I think that it's going to take maybe another 20 years to finish that one. So that means that the urbanization process will significantly slow compared to before. And also, this have a very significant impact on the demand side of steel making industry, because this infrastructure investment and also this property, that's another important demand for this steel making industry will slow with the slowing urbanization process. Okay, so in fact, the China government, they are well aware of this kind of overcapacity problem. Previously, they have several rounds. I think in total, they have 3 rounds of efforts to solve this problem. So here I listed the first round. They start from 2003. It's quite early. At that time, the Chinese market share of the total of the world market is only around 10%. But unfortunately, here I list the goals. I'm not going to go to detail that one. The one is they want to increase this concentration of steel making. They try to make 5 steel makers to account for 45% of this one. But today, even the 10, they make less than 40% of this one. Why? Why it failed? I think that this one we can blame this stimulus package. By 2008, when they start this stimulus package, in fact, they reverse their strategy of controlling, of reducing these overcapacities. Then they come to the second round. From 2011, they find, okay, things getting worse. We need to do another round, this overcapacity elimination things. And they have this one. And they have their goals, as you can see that one. But unfortunately, it doesn't work much. So they have to do the third one. It starts from 2 years ago. And this time, I think, compared to previous efforts, they are more serious about this one. One important signal is that they make these very quantitative targets on that one. And as you can see that what they have accomplished is quite good compared to that target. But still, their goal is to reduce 100 to 150 million tons in 5 years by 2020. Now almost close to this target, but still, as you can see, the Chinese overcapacity is maybe more than double than their targets, right? So it should be 280. So this one maybe is not enough to fully eliminate the overcapacity in China. And apart from this effort, why this time is become more efficient than before? Because they take more they pay more attention to these environmental restrictions. Before, I argue that one reason why Chinese, they encouraged this one, because they didn't take into account the cost of environmental damage. But as you may already aware that over the past several years, China's, even the capital, Beijing, they have a very serious pollution problem. So now the Chinese people, they know the importance of this one, and the Chinese government start to use these environmental policies to help to control the overcapacity in steel-making industries. And on this slide, I show that if you look at the chart on the left side, you can see that they show more seasonalities in winter, as you can see, because they intentionally try to reduce the production of the steel and also other important products during the reason, because they believe this will create more pollution. That's why they introduce these environmental policies to control the production of steel and other industries. Okay. Now they also try to revive the global demand by this one belt, one road things, but I'm not going to go to the detail on this one. But I think let's go to the last question, whether they will succeed. Unfortunately, I think that they can achieve some success, but the problem is what they have done is mainly focus on these administrative measures. But I think the most efficient one should introduce this market mechanism to allow all these steel makers to compete with each other, so that the weaker ones or the ones with less advanced technology, the ones with more polluted technology, we're going to get rid of by the market competition. So the Chinese problem is, of course, I agree with Ms. Han that you cannot only rely on this market mechanism to eliminate this overcapacity. Government should play a bigger role. But the problem is in China, they have too much government and too less market. So in future, if they want to really successful to eliminate this overcapacity, they need to do more on the market side. And now come to our possibilities. So what they can do, they can enhance the government and asset in restructure process, do more M&As, and they can also restrict capacity from input side, because now Chinese industry, they enjoy a very favorable price of this electricity, of the waters, all these things. And to some degree, they encourage these overcapacities. And the third one is they can prevent these SOEs, unpaired building behaviors, by redistribute these SOEs profit to other important sectors. Like in China, we do need to introduce this pension scheme. But I know in Brazil, you are trying to reduce some of the pension, but in China, we need to increase our pension. And the first one, they can encourage enterprises to do more R&Ds and emphasize the protection of the IP. And the last one, I think that now they have the problem with the US, they have these trade war things. Of course, that's not good for these unilateral measures from the US side. But I think that eventually, maybe we can use these opportunities to accelerate the solution of the Chinese overcapacities. Sometimes additional external pressure is good for China as well. Okay, let me stop here.
Thank you, Lee. Ok, terminadas as apresentações, nós temos aí ainda 15 minutos previstos e já temos algumas perguntas, vamos iniciar. A primeira delas para o embaixador Ronaldo Costa. Ela é da Luísa Santos. Faz sentido o Brasil, Mercosul, seguir negociando um acordo de livre comércio com a União Europeia, visto que nosso bloco está aplicando, que o bloco da Europa está aplicando medidas de salvaguardas contra o mundo e nós, inclusive, Mercosul?
Muito obrigado. Eu entendo até a frustração da pergunta, que parece não fazer sentido eu negociar com alguém que está tomando uma medida restritiva contra mim. A realidade do comércio internacional é que nenhuma relação, aliás, como nenhuma relação entre duas pessoas, um casal, nunca é inteiramente pacífica. Sempre tem momentos de tensão, de dificuldade momentânea. Isso é verdade também numa relação comercial. Esse processo com a União Europeia é antigo. E eu me lembro, em 2003, 2004, quando houve um momento de intensidade na negociação, o Brasil tinha duas demandas contra a União Europeia abertas na OMC, no setor de açúcar e no setor de frango. Isso jamais foi visto como um ato inamistoso, como um problema na relação. É um fato, é uma relação técnica, é um elemento técnico da negociação, da relação, que se leva para julgamento. Não constitui um ato agressivo. Agora, nessa etapa, a União Europeia tinha um painel aberto contra o Brasil por causa do inovar alto. Isso não é um empecilho, não é um problema para a negociação. A negociação visa justamente estabelecer um padrão de relacionamento mais intenso e mais aberto entre as partes. Agora, a relação, um acordo de livre comércio, não é livre comércio pleno. Todo mundo sabe disso. Eu lembro quando eu estava na OMC e nos diziam, isso aqui é o templo do livre comércio. E a pergunta, então, por que eu tenho um livro dessa grossura, que a gente chamava de Bíblia, de restrições ao livre comércio, que diz todas as condições que eu posso não aplicar o livre comércio? Porque o livre comércio pleno não existe. Essa é a realidade. Não existe. Então, a salvaguarda é um problema momentâneo, é uma reação a um fato momentâneo do setor de aço, que não é parâmetro para a relação permanente entre o Mercosul e a União Europeia. Obrigado.
Obrigado, embaixador. A próxima pergunta é para a Nahi, é do Germano Mendes de Paula, e ele pergunta se ela poderia discutir um pouco mais sobre os impactos da digitalização na indústria do aço, referente à demanda do mercado, estrutura, e em termos de performance financeira.
Yes, thank you. Yes, actually, yeah, I think a lot of discussion on digitalization is oriented on the production side, including efficiency. So I think this question is very proper, but not so easy to actually answer. So I'll do my best. In terms of affecting steel demand, I think there are conflicting forces. The negative force would be, first of all, as steel industry efficiency increases, so will do the efficiency of steel using sectors. So probably their material efficiency will increase with this state-of-the-art design and 3D printing. Maybe to produce the same goods, you will need a much less, not much less, but a bit less steel. So this will have a negative impact on steel demand. And also indirectly, I believe digital technology is very instrumental to the development of a circular economy. For example, like a sharing economy, Uber, Airbnb. This would not have been possible without the supporting digital economy. And also this reuse, remanufacturing all needs digital technology to, say, track the materials in order to have it recalled for reuse or repurposing, so-called reverse logistics. So the transition to circular economy will be supported by digital economy, which means will have negative force on steel demand, as I explained earlier. But there are also positive forces, in my view, because this transition or implementation of digital technology will require some new additional infrastructure, so smart cities and also all these new digital towers and so on. So there are also some possible positive effects on steel demand. An effect on the market structure, this is a rather difficult question. First of all, we know that with the digital technology, our relationship with our value chain will be much closer and integrated. So in this situation, maybe there is a point where the boundary of steel versus steel using sectors become blurred, and both steel using sectors can come into the area of steel industry, or steel could advance to the area of steel using downstream. So there will be some struggle, and depending who is more smart in taking a larger share of the value chain, there will be some change in market structure. And also it might have some effect on how steel industry itself produces, in what scale. I am not technology expert, but it is quite possible that digital technology will enable or change the economies of scale in the steel industry. Maybe with this digital control, we might be able to manage much larger factories in different worlds, which might lead to increasing concentration of the steel industry. But also it is possible with digital technology, steel companies can specialize more easily rather than producing everything to meet all my customers. By sharing this information, there might be optimal division of market, specialization. I will produce mostly rail products to serve your customers as well. Instead, you will serve my customers in hot rolled coils and so on. So there might be interesting specialization among steel companies might be possible. So this is all kind of complex and difficult to quantify, verify, but those are my insights. Regarding financial performance, I think it's not matter of digitalization, but it all depends on cost versus competitiveness. And in a perfectly operating market economy, steel industry should be earning a decent profit in order to enable sustainability. And I'm hoping digital economy, by making information more transparent and market more transparent, that might help improve the profit level to a sustainable level, rather than having to go through all these bankruptcies and then rising prices, again going back to normal profit. So the market fluctuation and profit fluctuation could be much more smooth, so maybe more stable performance. Thank you.
Thank you, Nahi. Bom, nós temos tempo só para mais uma pergunta, e essa é para o Lixia. Sobre como ele vê a tendência da economia circular na China. Se existe previsão de alterar a rota de produção de aço, usando mais sucata por geração interna e reduzir a dependência de minério.
Thank you. I think there's a very clear trend, this more recycling in China, now in every industry. So in this steel making industry, we don't have exact figures, but definitely this is the trend. And I think this one is going to affect, because if you checked, in my presentation, I list one chart to show Chinese import of this aero. And you can see that this one have decline compared to before. Of course, one reason is that they start to import less because the demand is not that strong. But also, I think to some degree, this secular trend in steel making industry is going to happen, affect China as well. But I like to say this one is quite affected by price. If we find this price of this iron ore decline quite a lot, maybe people will depend more on this iron ore import rather than use domestic recycling steel. Okay.
Thank you. Bom, chegamos ao fim aí das perguntas. Agradecer aí o Marcos Rogério e a Roy Vivian pelas perguntas. Infelizmente não deu para responder pelo tempo. Queria fazer 3 ou 4 comentários para fechar nesse tema tão importante e tão crítico para o nosso setor, e não só para os produtores, mas para toda a cadeia de suprimentos e consumidores do aço, que é a sobrecapacidade. Começando pela apresentação do embaixador Ronaldo Costa, onde falou muito claro, eu concordo, que o unilateralismo não resolve, e nós estamos vivendo isso. A grande questão é como trazer para o diálogo se tem essa tendência. E também acho 2 frases importantes aqui que eu concordo, que ele falou, que ninguém ganha o jogo na guerra comercial. Eu concordo totalmente. Nós estamos vendo aí, um bota a tarifa de 25, o outro bota de 35, e assim vai, e é muito difícil ter um vencedor. E também, embaixador, muito que o livre comércio pleno não existe. E aí nós, da Gerdau, que trabalhamos aí em vários países, a gente vê que cada país tem a sua situação. É muito difícil ser pleno. Da NARI, eu acho que os pontos frente a essa sobrecapacidade, ela traz muitos desafios da demanda do aço, as grandes tendências que ameaçam o aço, a desindustrialização, envelhecimento, economia circular, o trade, e também um número assim que a gente olha, que ela mostrou no gráfico, que até 2035 existe capacidade suficiente frente à demanda, que cresce a 1% ou um pouco mais. Se considerar que ainda vai ter aumentos de capacidade, esse número está sempre se movendo. Então, a grande questão é como é que o setor pode buscar alternativas nesse ambiente. E ela citou como é difícil, ela mostrou a experiência da Europa na reestruturação da indústria, como é difícil, porque impacta empregos diretos e indiretos, impostos, geração econômica e assim por diante. Conclusão minha para todos nós é: só vão sobreviver nesse ambiente os melhores e mais competentes na economia de mercado, e as empresas estatais na economia não de mercado, como a China. Para finalizar, o Lixia nos trouxe a China, e eu gostei muito que ele fala sobre a luta da China para reduzir a sobrecapacidade, porque a gente olha de fora, critica, mas é uma luta, porque existe o nível federal, estadual e municipal, e quem manda em quem ou consegue, existem inspetores. Estamos vendo, mas principalmente por causa da poluição, né, que é o que tem motivado essa redução, e esse plano, que é o terceiro que a China coloca, que está conseguindo chegar em algumas metas entre 150 milhões de toneladas, mas eu acho que a questão que ele trouxe mais importante é assim: se a China não mudar o modelo de crescimento, o growth model, não mudar, vai ser difícil mudar essa situação. São indústrias grandes, subsidiadas, estatais, e a solução sempre é no mercado, mas a gente ainda não vê a China indo para isso, e se espera que sim, por enquanto a poluição que está seguindo a produção. Para terminar, muito obrigado, embaixador. Nahi, thank you very much. Lixia, obrigado a todos pelas perguntas. Que tenhamos um bom congresso.